I am here today to go over my 100 postcards in 100 days challenge. It's the first real art challenge that I've ever done and ever completed. I've done like Inktober and done like 3 days of Inktober and then given up. But this is the first real art challenge I've done. So I want to go over a little bit what I did, delve into some of the nerdy stats, like about how much of each media I did, how long I took, kind of delve into that. And also, I want to share some advice for people who are looking to do an art challenge of what I would do differently and how to best set yourself up for success because I learned a lot when doing this. So if you want to learn all about that and hear about my experience, then keep watching. And if not, thank you for watching the first few minutes of this video. I made 100 4x6 postcards and I sized them 4x6 because that is the limit. It's not exactly 4x6, but around 4x6 is the limit to how big a postcard can be when you're mailing it via the USPS with a postcard stamp. So there's actually postcard stamps which are cheaper than like an actual letter stamp, and they're like a good 10 cents cheaper. So if you want to be able to mail a postcard for that rate, you have to keep it within the size limits. And I think it's like 4 and change, but 4x6 was within the limits, so that's why I decided to do that. So if I decided one day to mail the literal postcard, which I don't think I will, but if I decided to mail a reproduction of the postcard, I wouldn't have to resize it. I stored my postcards as I was making them in these acid-free picture boxes from Michaels. They come in a big pack of them, and that way they're acid-free, so I can store them long-term in here, and they won't yellow or damage. What I did to document was I scanned them at like the max DPI, and I would put them in groups of 25 into these boxes with a label on it that said which postcards are in here. So that way I can easily go back and look and reflect. I shouldn't need to take these out of the boxes because they are all scanned. So if I want to do anything like to print a reproduction or make a sticker or share the postcards digitally, I don't really have to take them out of here. I'm more protecting them for if I choose to exhibit them one day, which is the goal. That would be really cool to see them all hung up on a space because there is 100 of them and they would take up a good deal of room. So I would like to, see the fruits of my labor displayed one day, but that's like a long-term goal. So let me go into a little bit of the nitty-gritty of types of postcards I made, the media, how long it took me, and all that fun stuff. So I have calculated the totals of all my postcards, and I definitely did a wide range of media, but the bulk of the postcards were done with acrylic markers, mostly Posca markers, and that is a total of 58 postcards. Second highest number is watercolor postcards, in which I did 22. The next is some sort of like ink, whether it's pen and pencil or gel pen, and that was 3 postcards. You can see a big jump. So the next grouping of postcards mostly has like 2 postcards. I did 2 relief printed postcards, 2 collaged postcards, 2 postcards that I designed in Illustrator / Photoshop, 2 ones done with mostly pencil, so either colored pencil or like graphite and colored pencil. 2 used alcohol markers. 2 were done using photographic processes. So that was one that I did a digital photo and printed out, and then one that I did a cyanotype, and then the rest were ones. So I did one with pen and pencil, one with gouache, one with Procreate, one with stamps, and one with crayon. So I think it's cool how many different types of media I did. I wish I spread it out a little bit better instead of doing so many with Posca pens, but I enjoy using them so much that I'm not like that upset about it because this was meant to be fun. It wasn't meant to be like a chore. But I do kind of want to branch out a little bit and try to incorporate a little more different medias in my work in the future. Like I went into this thinking I would make a lot more prints, but it ended up being for a day-to-day challenge. It's like I would make a print, but I couldn't even really include it in the challenge because it would have to dry and I couldn't like sign it and photograph it or anything. So it wasn't really well suited for that. That would be better for like a once a week project. And then some more nerdy stuff. My total time spent on this project, assuming that I tracked everything well, was 83 hours and 59 minutes. I was like, I couldn't just do one more minute and get to that 84 hours straight, but whatever. In April, because I started about mid-April, I did 10 hours and 17 minutes. In May, I did 23 hours and 35 minutes. In June, I did 28 hours and 4 minutes. That was the month I did the most. And then in July, I did 22 hours and 3 minutes. What's cool is I actually broke it down by like client. So I'm looking at my computer. So the bulk of that was spent drawing/sketching with 49 hours and 43 minutes. I'm rounding up because it was 42 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm not dealing with seconds. The second longest duration was painting, which was 22 hours and 1 minute. And the next was actually printmaking, because even though I did 2 prints, the cyanotype and all that prep also included in that. Printmaking takes so much time to even just like prep the paper and all that. That was 7 hours and 31 minutes. Designing, even though again 2 postcards, was 2.5 hours. I also included a lot of the time that I spent scanning the postcards. I don't think I did most of it though, but that was 1 hour and 3 minutes. Multimedia was 55 minutes. And studio, which was like cutting down the postcards and doing all that, I think I put 15 hours and 49 minutes, but I don't know if that's accurate because there are probably times where I went to just log it in my time tracker and forgot to put the little 100-day tab. Definitely like with the scanning postcards, it definitely took me more than 45 minutes because that would take me like, it would take me anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes every time I did like scanned and edited like 5 to 10 of them. Unfortunately, when you're tracking your time yourself, it's not always the most accurate. I will put the cool charts on here from my Toggle Track app so you can see the breakdown of it. Just for anyone who's interested in that sort of thing, because it's kind of nerdy, but I think it's fun. So now for the more philosophical thing. I did this challenge to kind of inspire me to try and make art every day, because even though this is my full-time thing right now, sometimes it's still hard to find inspiration to make work every single day and make a new piece every single day. You keep getting it in your head, or at least I say you, but like I kept getting in my head that I need to make all these like big pieces, and not just like big in size and scale, but also just like big and time consuming. And this forced me to work smaller in size and try to create pieces in a short amount of time. So obviously looking at like 84 hours is not a short amount of time, but to create 100 pieces of art, like finished pieces, 84 hours is not that long. So obviously you can see that maybe one postcard took me a half hour, one took me like 20 minutes, and then there are plenty that took me like an hour and change. Some even took me like 2 hours if I got really into it. Definitely a good way for me to hold myself accountable to making art a daily practice. That being said, there would be times where life would get crazy and I would be like 5 to 6 postcards behind, and catching up would be kind of a slog. So then sometimes there would be ones where I felt like I was rushing just to complete it. And of course, it's like the curse of the artist is to have projects that are due. And of course, that's not the one that you really currently want to work on. Like right now, I'm working on paintings for various projects I committed to, where right now I really want to print. And I want to experiment with like different relief prints. I want to do like a woodcut. So my recommendations to anyone who wants to do like a big art project were to maybe start smaller than 100 days, maybe do like a week. Challenge yourself to try to make a small piece every day or a small sketch every day. And then if you can do that, then try for like a month. Maybe give yourself like a set restriction. Like I did the postcards, they could be anything, but they had to be on paper. Even if they're digital, they had to be printed out in a 4:6 scale. So that was the only restriction, was that size. And that made me think outside the box without it being too confined. So if you're going to do an art challenge, I think it's important to leave room for creativity. Like Inktober, I think what never stuck for me was the fact that it's all pen and ink and there is a drawing prompt. And once I did the first few drawings in ink, I was like, I don't want to draw in ink now. I want to do something else. And so I need looser guidelines and looser restrictions because that's just the way my brain works. I definitely think having a visual is helpful. I printed out a template of, I'll put like a small clip of me filling it in. I printed out a template I made for myself to fill a bubble for each day that I create a postcard, and I did it with like fun Crayola crayons. And it was nice having the visual. I hung it right here, so now that's blank. That clipboard is blank. I hung it right there to keep it in mind that I needed to work on it and a visual reminder to complete it. And it was fun to see the visual progress as I create the postcards, but seeing the visual progress kept me in check of like, oh, look, wow, I only have like a quarter of the way through, or I'm halfway through. So having a visual tracker for stuff like that, I find very helpful versus just keeping track of it digitally or by the postcard itself. I do think though that this project for me accomplished what I needed it to accomplish, which was to bring back some spark of creativity and show and prove to myself that I can work within like a certain set of restricted guidelines. And what I mean by that is sometimes I feel like I can be a little flighty with my art. I do a bunch of different styles, a bunch of different media. And even though the project itself was still rather flighty in the sense that I did so many different media, I found that, well, obviously I do gravitate towards like watercolor crayons. I do gravitate towards Posca markers. And what are the things about those that call out to me? What parts of it did I enjoy making the most? And what are the postcards that I like the most? And what does that say about the art that I want to continue to make? And what does it say about myself? And that sounds super philosophical, but what I mean is in looking at the art that you really like that you make, it shows me that like I definitely do enjoy more design-based art. I love including lettering and typography. I like using a lot of reference. I also realized that I can stick with long-term projects and I can stick with things without being like too flighty, where sometimes I get it in my head and I don't even know why, because I don't have a pattern of behavior of this or anything, but I get in my head that I'm like a quitter. And I think it's more from growing up with undiagnosed ADHD and not having the treatments and systems in place to really keep that in check. I would get into my head that like something was wrong with me, that like I can't stick with like a sport or I can't stick with a hobby. I keep going hobby to hobby to hobby. The only thing I could really stick with for the most part was my job because I love the routine and the structure, and the fact that I stuck to something for 100 days consistently through to the end and even finished it like on time. I finished it the day that I set out to finish it. It really was a boost to my confidence, and I was proud of myself for the work that it took. And I know that if I was going to do another project like this, I could accomplish it. And I think that's really important as an artist and as a person to remind yourself that you can do hard things and remind yourself that you are so much more than what you give yourself credit for. I'm talking to you, anyone watching this. You're so much more than you give yourself credit for, and I'm proud of you if you haven't heard it today. We all are going through stuff that no one even knows, and we all are just doing the best we can, and that's all that anyone can ever ask. That's always what my mom said to me, and my brain would take it way too literally, and it took a while to realize she was saying like the best you can for today and not the best. And she would even say this. She would have to remind me, your best doesn't look the same every day. Every year you're going to change, and just doing the best that makes you happy and feel good about yourself is enough. And that's always what she told me, and I appreciate it. My mom's the best. So I'm very happy with this project. I am excited to try to think of another project. And if you decide to do a postcard project like this, please let me know. I would love to see it. You can see all of my postcards on my website, astheniadesigns.com. And I think I want to try and release reproductions at some point of the postcards for a very affordable price. I want to get them printed somewhere with a postcard back that you can mail like in the mail. So be sure to follow along on my social media if you want information about that. And yeah, I'm going to try to keep posting like 2 videos a month. That's my goal. And I also posted my first Substack if you want to check that out. And yeah, so I hope that this video found you well, and I hope that you got something out of it. Bye, guys.